Today we're going to talk about the Remington Model 11. There are thousands of these guns out there. They're pretty good little guns. They don't sell for the money that the Browning Auto 5 sell for, but they're good little guns, and people that have them really like them. There's a lot of sentimental value to them. They went back to the war years, and so a lot of times it's grandpa's old gun, and guys want to pick them up and shoot them. So we're going to start off today. We've got some kits ready to go for these guns. And I happen to have here on my bench in front of me a 16 gauge Model 11. Just came in. Now I want to talk about the differences when you go to order a kit. This is a 3-shot or a Sportsman model. You'll know them when you see them because they have like this nut on the end. This is working. They have this nut on the end of the form. Now here is a 5-shot, and they're pretty much like a Browning. They have this cap. And of course the form's going to be longer, but it'll have a cap like a Browning Auto 5. That's the 5-shot. So we need to know that when you order a kit because it makes a difference. Everything's pretty much the same in that kit except for the recoil spring. It's a little shorter for the 16 gauge. I'm sorry, for the Sportsman's model. So we have kits for about everything right now. I'm a little short on, I don't have them just yet for the 16 gauge Sporter. I got one in just the other day and realized I didn't have a kit for it. So I'm going to talk about installing this kit and what to do to get your kit in. It's basically the same as the Browning Auto 5. These old guns have these square springs, and these things really collapse. That's what they do. Now the new springs will be longer because they won't be collapsed, and they'll be round. The square springs have a tendency to kind of dig into the magazine tube, so they're bad. Just get rid of those and go to the round springs. You're better off. So in the kit you will have a recoil spring and an action spring. Let's get into the kit. Get things out of the way here. We'll talk about what's in this kit. Okay, this is a 16 gauge kit. This one is for a Sportsman model 16. I have one new spring for that. You always find your little bottle of oil. Use this oil on your magazine tube under your bronze piece. This is good stuff. This will keep your gun cycling. That will be in the kit. You'll also have a fiber bumper. These are in the back of the receiver. They're actually in the factory guns, are riveted in place. It's going to be tough for you to re-rivet one of those. I don't really recommend replacing this if your fiber cushion is good in your receiver. Just leave it. Keep this in case this goes bad. You'll know when the day comes because it'll crumble and fall out of your receiver. And if it's not in your receiver, then put it up in place in there and put it in there good with some kind of a glue or epoxy, and you'll be good to go. But there again, I don't replace them unless they really need it. So in this kit will be a magazine spring, this spring right here. I'm not going to put it in this particular gun. These are a little hard to put in. When you get one of these for your Sportsman model, you may want to put it in, you may not want to, but to put it in the Sportsman, you see this screw threaded, this screw slot. Unscrew that, and there's a plug in here. It comes out, then put your magazine spring in, and go from there. You don't have to always replace magazine springs. I mean, it's a good idea. It's in the kit, but it's not totally necessary. Now, the action springs, it's just like the Browning Auto 5. You push the, make sure your bolt is closed, take tension off of it. Then you push out the pin that is holding the plug in place. Usually they just kind of fall out. This one's being a little contrary, but that's okay. So the action springs are all the same. There's no difference in them. Pull out that action spring, and when you compare them, you'll see the new spring is going to be longer. This spring's about an inch longer. So remove the action spring follower. They're made out of wood usually. Now I have a new one in the kit. This plastic holds up better. And remove your metal follower. They stick on the springs pretty good sometimes, so you got to kind of grab them and force them off. find the tools I need when I need them, even though I got a pile of junk here. So pull your two followers off and get rid of that spring. Take your new spring, put your metal follower in, and here's your new plug. Put your new action spring plug in, like so, and then slide this all back in and make sure this follower comes up against the link. I'll pull it back so you can kind of maybe see it, maybe not, but this is the link right here, and this spring, the follower needs to go against that link. It can jump around it and over it and do different things, but you want to make sure it goes against it like that. And push it down into place, and bring around your plug, line up the hole, and replace your pin. Okay. Try it again here. You're in an awkward position. Slide it in. Make sure your hole in that follower is lined up with the hole in your piece here. And then put the pin in that retains all of that. And all the way through. Let me get a new one out here. That one hit the floor, and by the time I looked for it, could have gotten up here and got in my parts and got several more if I could find one when I need it. Here, got all kinds of these. All right, this is your action spring retaining pin. There's not one of these in the kit, so don't lose it like I just lost mine there. Mine's on the floor. I could look for it to find it, but it's just quicker and easier to put a new one in. All right. So there's your action spring. It's in place. Now here's where you need your oil. A few drops. This is my, I don't have a label on it, but that's what it is. A few drops on the action spring. Don't need a lot. Okay. You're good to go. So your action spring is now in place. They're a little harder to get on than the recoil springs. The recoil springs, you just slide them off and slide them back on. When I talk about the recoil spring, goes up on the magazine. All right. Now, so we talked about putting the new magazine spring in. I'm not going to put it in this one just for demonstration purposes. These are easy to put in the 5-shot models because there's just a little plastic retainer holds it in. The 3-shot are a little trickier. You got to unscrew this, and the plug comes down. You'll see how it works. And in the 5-shot models, you have this retainer. We won't need it in this 3-shot model. Now, we're going to replace the recoil spring. Here's the old square spring, and there's the new spring. See the difference? How these things really collapse? That's just what they do. And we're going to replace that. Now, when you order one of these, this is a 3-shot spring. This is a 5-shot. When you order one of these, that's why you have to specify whether you have a Sportsman 3-shot or a 5-shot, because there's a difference in this spring, the recoil spring. So I normally set these guns for heavy loads. Now in your kit you'll have a friction ring, and you'll have a new bronze piece. Now I want to talk a little bit about 20 gauge while I'm kind of on the subject here. I have one right here. This is a 20 gauge Model 11. There's a lot of them out there, and they all need kits. They're famous for collapsing that old square spring. But the 20 gauge model takes a completely different recoil spring and bronze piece, because this magazine tube is smaller on the 20 gauge. And so this is a special kit. Now see, this gun has the old square spring, some old bronze pieces. They all need to be replaced. But I do have the kits for the 20 gauge. They're ready to go, but there again you have to specify whether you have a 3 or a 5-shot model. We have lots and lots of these kits on hand, and they really help these old guns out because the springs really go bad in them. So I just want to talk a little bit about the 20 gauge. All right, we're done talking about that. Let me sit over out of the way. While we're talking about different models and what have you, this is a 12 gauge. I'll take it back. This is a 16 gauge Model 11. We talked about that. Where's my 12? It's over here. For some reason, I don't have a 12 gauge Model 11 here, but it's the same kit basically as the Browning Auto 5. I sell lots of those kits. Now, this is not a Model 11. This is a Savage Model 750. There's a few of these old guns out there. They have alloy receivers, and they all need rebuild. They all need a kit. This is one I just picked up the other day just for demonstration purposes. I'm putting pliers on this cap, but I have rawhide protection on there, unlike a lot of guys that just put their vice grips on there. Now, this Savage kit is the same as a Remington Model 11 kit, and they all have the old square recoil springs, and these things are really, they collapse and they go bad. So if you have one of these old Savages, just specify that and I'll get you the right kit. It's the same kit for the Remington Model 11 12 gauge, or the American Browning 12 gauge, or the Belgian 12 gauge. They're basically the same kit, but they will have the fiber bumper around. Buffer. We call it bumper. It's a buffer. So if you need a kit from Savage Model 750, I've got those too. Now, of course, the 3-shot Sporter model will not need the adapter. They only hold 3 rounds. This kit has an adapter in it, but that is for the 5-shot model. You won't need that. So basically, remove the old square spring, and I like to set these guns up for heavy loads the first time. I go test fire them. Put it on your new friction ring, bevel up. Put on your new bronze ring, bevel up. And don't forget, just a couple drops of oil. Doesn't take a lot under those bronze pieces. Then put everything back together and go shoot it and see how it works. Now, I set them on heavy loads, and if you go test fire it and it works when it's set on heavy loads and you're shooting light loads, well, leave it that way. Now, if you have it set for heavy loads and you go to shoot light loads and they don't want to cycle, then you have to readjust it and reset it again for the light loads. But always start with the heavy load. So we're going to cycle it. Feels good. I feel a lot more tension on that spring, so it's going to really slow it down. Now, also in the kit is a ring diagram. You can glue that in the bottom of your forearm. Go to Walmart, get some spray glue, and stick it in there. Now, there again, Browning doesn't recommend that you have this in the bottom of your forearm because they have a tendency to catch on a spring and ball up and jam the gun up. So when they came into the Browning shop, they would automatically just take these out. But it's there for to refresh your memory on how they work. So that's basically it. To put your springs and your new pieces in the Model 11. But just for the heck of it, we will go shoot this and just see how it's going to handle the light loads. So we put a kit in this and we set it for the heavy loads, and I've got some rather light field loads I'm going to shoot through here. We're going to see if it functions. We'll see if it works or not. Yeah, it works. So start by setting it on the heavy load, and if it works with that lighter load, great. So that old gun's good to go, and the recoil was very mild, very mild. That'll really tame them down when you replace those springs.